Welcome to Wiki Inspiration. My name is Stine Jensen and I'm a terminologist at the Terminology Coordination Unit, Term Code in the European Parliament. This tutorial that I prepared for you is to share good practices around the different language communities and get inspired by each other. You're now watching the second part of the tutorial Wiki Inspiration. The two parts can be watched separately, but if you're interested in getting more information and be more inspired by the other language communities on profile settings, start page and layout, among many other wiki possibilities, please continue with part 1. The value of the language wikis really becomes obvious when it comes to forums and decisions made within the EU translation with external partners and in terminology. We're now looking at the French language wiki. The French language community is the only one that decided to use tags. The tags give a great overview of what the discussions have been about. Let's take, for example, number 76, International Organizations. The Latvian language community has a very active forum. It has the typical layout of a forum in the language wikis. Now this is a terminology forum, but actually the same language community has also a language forum. This is interesting as it's not found among the other language wikis. The Maltese language community has a forum with decisions, and they also use the status sign, which gives a nice overview of how far they've got with the decisions. On LL Term Marketplace, in the menu to the left, you can find a tab that's called Forum Ideas, Wiki Inspiration. These are examples of forums which I have elaborated for this tutorial and which go a bit beyond terminology work. I've taken examples from the European Parliament, but these could be applied to all European institutions. For example, we could have a forum for file managers, a forum for head of units, for the different projects of the European institutions. Here I've taken the example of the House of European History and the radio project. And then for the thematic groups. Very often guidelines are shared on the language wikis. We're now looking at the German language wiki. Layout-wise, this is a very nice example. If we go back to LL Marketplace, I just wanted to attract your attention to the guidelines for the wiki that I have been working on. And here this tutorial will of course also be uploaded. As we deal with many different types of translation within many different types of fields in the EU translation, expert and external collaboration is also seen within the language communities. However, because of data protection considerations, I cannot give you examples from the wikis themselves and of the networks and councils and context lists that have been made with external contexts. Instead, I will show you the models that they were built on and also some of our internal contexts. On LL Term Marketplace, you can find an example of organization of information. This model was applied to the Danish Terminology Network, and it consists of tabs whereby the Danish language community organized their contacts for the network. Moreover, you can find a copy of Contact Demo. It was developed for the very same network. Like with all other models, you can edit and copy the model and insert it into your language wiki. This model was developed on the basis of this list of institutions, bodies and agencies. Another example from the Greek language community is a simplified version of the same model. This model is a direct link to the EU terminology context, which you can find on your term. Your term is the platform of the language wikis. On the main page, you can also see a direct link down to the right to all of the language wikis. I will now speak a bit about this platform and then we get back to the wikis. Your term is the interinstitutional terminology portal of the European institutions, a collaborative space of the IATE management group for communication and sharing of resources. It is hosted on a server of the European Commission, which is accessible to all users having an EU login. The objectives are Single central access to EU terminology resources, tools and databases, efficient and user-friendly interinstitutional communication, sharing of information, linguistic knowledge and skills, improved functionality of YATE and all other interinstitutional terminology tools, create language-specific communication means and interest groups. Apart from all the resources, materials and tools that you can find on your term, you can also find a direct link to the different networks. Let's have a look at the EU terminology contacts as we've had earlier. The EU terminology contacts offer filter options which can be applied to any table in the language wikis. As you can see here, you can filter by language, by institution and by role, but you can choose and name the filters the way that you want to. Another example is the Irish language community. They have a very interesting forum or question box where they communicate directly with external experts on terminology matters. Another example is from the Italian language wiki. The Italian language community developed a network to ease the interinstitutional collaboration and to involve external stakeholders. Terminology and language resources shared on the language wikis are many. Here I found just a few examples of how these resources are shared. We're now looking at the English language wiki. Here you can find an example of how the English language community has decided to make a page for each of the EU official languages. An example of the same is on the French language wiki. The Estonian language wiki offers a combination of resources. They have made a page for electronic terminology resources, and then they have made a page for paper resources. The Swedish language community has also a quite impressive collection of terminology material. And the Czech language community offers glossaries. The German language community also offers quite an extensive list of terminology resources. In here you can find current terms, word lists, glossaries, and legal terminology. So I guess that all that's left to say now is, did you get Wiki inspired? I hope that you enjoyed the tutorial as much as I did, and please keep inspiring us.